Hi guys, we started off season 1 of K21 Talk Show last week. The first guest was Akash Chopra. I hope all of you guys liked it. This week's guest is going to be no less. I hope this week's episode is much better. We are also slightly well prepared, unlike last time where we planned it at the last moment. So today's guest probably during his playing, he goes by the name of Professor right now, but during his playing days, he was always seen as a trendsetter of the ODI format. His peers and even some of the biggest names in the game always thought that his game that he played in the 80s and early 90s was at least 10 years ahead of his current time. So in terms of test matches, he's probably played one of the most spoken about test innings in the history of test cricket, especially in India. The great test match in Chennai, the great tight test match in Chennai. He claims that he lost about 7 to 8 kilos while playing that innings alone. And yeah, obviously people remember the great sledge about the game. So Alan Border standing in the middle of the crease and then saying, "Get the Queenslander in," and then Dean Jones walks out, and then the rest is history. So not just that. From after being one of the successful players, his career sort of probably ended a little prematurely, but he left a legacy. He obviously left a great deal of legacy behind. His ODI game is probably, again, as I said, so he's probably one of the most talented players of his generation. He didn't stop with that. He's from a player. 1 minute, I'm just adding Dean Jones. Hi Dino, how are you?
Oh, all the better for speaking to you. There you go. Everything good?
Yeah, all good. How has lockdown been treating you?
It's actually, I've enjoyed my home because I'm normally on the road 9 months of the year. It's been pretty good, but things are starting to get better here in Australia. We had live sport last night.
NRL started last night.
Yeah, rugby league started. AFL, Australian Rules Football, start in a couple of weeks. They're talking about crowds coming already to our. The MCG holds 100,000. I don't think they can get any more than the social distancing and say 30,000 people.
Yeah.
So we're starting to open up, which is good. I can't believe Australia's been so disciplined with this thing. It's scared everyone, you know.
Yeah, it's actually good. Your neighbours, New Zealand, have probably reported 0 cases in the last couple of weeks. That's quite unbelievable. Yeah, but keep it that aside.
Well, even COVID doesn't want to go to New Zealand. Let's be honest. Where's Scotty?
It's just too small. Yeah. So let's hope Australia is sort of setting an example, and then the other sports, be it cricket or be it any other sport, just inspired and then start off. What if it's behind closed doors? The live artists have been performing in live studios for ages. So hopefully the players can too.
Yeah, well, it'll happen. I have no doubt IPL will happen, but it's just a matter of where and when and how. India definitely will be coming out here. The dates are proposed. I don't think they'll play the T20 series in October. That ain't happening for me, because I think that's where the IPL will be playing. But all in all, we're in a good position to get ready to look after you Indians and beat you up properly and send you home.
The test series schedule has come out, so people are hopeful that it's going to happen too.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of stuff happening, as you know. So England starting to look like they have the West Indies and maybe Pakistan going out there. There's tour of maybe India playing somewhere else as well. I don't know where, but
South Africa.
T10. Oh, that's right, South Africa. T10 is going to be happening in November. They talk about the Pakistan Super League playoffs will be in late November. And of course, the Indian tour will start and everybody will be watching that. So it's pretty good. The great thing for India right now is the fact that it can watch all the other sports, how it goes about looking after this COVID problem.
Yeah, they can learn their lessons,
Learn the lessons, see what works, see what doesn't work, the hub situation, how the players cope sitting in hotels, not going out, how the broadcasters handle it. But just to go through a couple of things, if I may, In the AFL, they're talking about putting supporters have not asked for their money back. They pay memberships. One in 25 Australians are a member of an AFL club. So
Especially Victoria.
especially in Victoria, yeah. So they're paying US dollars about $500 to be a member, and that goes to the games. Now they can't go to the games, so they watch it on TV, which they can get for free. But so what they're doing to help the clubs out even more is they're doing a photo of a big cutout of themselves, putting it in the seats and seats, right around the ground. Yeah, which is really cool. So they're doing that, which is smart. The broadcasters are putting some fake noise, but the sound guys are so good. I listened to the NRL. I'm not into rugby league that much, but I watched it. It was a good game actually. But they know when there's a hard tackle, they whack the noise up. They know how to manipulate the noise to get in the emotion of the game itself. So they're doing everything they can. As much as they can. Now, we might probably get bored of it after a month's time, but without the pure fans there. But it's AFL football, as you know, is our number one sport in Victoria, particularly Australia. That's bigger there. I know. Yeah. People would die of death putting that up normally because you're a friend of mine. It's like, what's the most hated IPL team? What do you think is the most hated? Yeah.
No, it probably depends on the region. So if you ask people from Chennai, they'll obviously say Bank RCB because the rivalry goes back beyond, like even before IPL as well. Chennai Mumbai is a natural rivalry because two of the best teams fighting.
No, but I said hate. Which do you hate? Yes. Which do you despise? You know. So. See, my club is Carlton Football Club. My grandfather played for the club. We hate Bombers. That shirt you're wearing. You are so lucky.
Yeah, 16 titles
I'm actually speaking to
16 titles each. Yeah, 16 flags each.
Yeah. And yours is drug induced.
Yeah. Without further delay, let's get started. Let's get started without further delay. So we'll go back to your the beginning of your test career. So you were not supposed to make a debut. One other guy, Steve Smith, got injured, and then you were called up. You were also ill. But then people in the Australian circle say that the 48 that you scored in your first ever test inning against the attack of Malcolm Marshall, Wayne Daniels, Joel Garner is probably one of the best knocks ever seen. Like, how was it? Like, is there a better initiation to test cricket than that? Like, than facing Garner and Marshall?
On a wet pitch as well. It was ugly. Fortunately, I played against the West Indies and Pakistan 3 months earlier in the one-day series. So I had a bit of a sniff on what it's like playing in front of a crowd and in front of these boys. So I wasn't too overawed looking at these or watching these guys work. But trust me, when they come on the ground back then, everybody knows and they're watching them. Even the opposition teams are intimidated. So it was and the big thing for me, I faced Michael Holding at Perth, of all the places to face him. Nasty. And when he bowled the first couple of balls, I thought, I cannot play this. I honestly couldn't play it because I just couldn't believe how fast that ball was bowled. So it took me a little while to get used to it. And then once I got to the West Indies, I was pretty well used to facing guys at 140, 150 clicks. But you do get used to it, but it frightens the bejesus out of you when you first see it, I'll tell you. And that's a sad thing. We get a kid like Bumrah at the moment who can bowl good heat, really good heat. You really don't have any idea how fast he bowls until you stand at the umpire's end, and then you go, oh, that's a bit quick. Yeah.
Like before your test debut, who was the fastest bowler that you had faced? Was it even comparable in terms of speed?
No, nothing really.
You managed to. Did you play against Tomo in in Shield
Oh,
before that?
yeah, I did, but Tomo was at the end of his career a little bit then. Um, no, see, after the West Indies tour, they belted me up. They smashed me mentally, physically, technically. They just ripped me apart. And I went home with my head between my legs, and I'm thinking, I'm not good enough at this level. And I sat with my dad, who was a district cricketer and a past coach for Carlton and my old team.
Yeah.
So, and he said, well, either you got two things you can do: either put your head between your legs and sulk, like you're doing now, or you're going to do something about it. And if you are, what are you going to do? So instead of him telling me what I should be doing, he was allowing me to have some sort of say in how I should go about my game and the decision-making process.
Yeah.
So I went into the nets, faced 150 kilometres an hour, and I faced thousands and thousands of balls. And then I got used to it, and I found a technique that would work. I wasn't a great hooker. I was a good cutter. I can pull okay, but I wasn't a great hooker. So I had to find a way of getting the ball around the corner when it was short. And when you face the great spinners of the land, and there was a lot of great spinners when I was playing in India, Pakistan, and whatnot.
Yeah.
They work on your mental strengths, and you've got to be bottom half very good from your hips, your knees, your ankles, and your footwork. And you've got to be mentally strong how to set them up. But when you play against the super quicks, it's a physical courage. You've got to get behind the ball, and you've got to be supple in the top half of your body. Now, you can duck all the time, but in fourth and fifth day, you can't duck because sometimes the ball doesn't
You can't
bounce.
trust the bounce, yeah.
So you've got to learn to weave. You've got to do that instead of duck. So there's different ways to play them, and you need to have your defensive shots have got to be great, but you need to have one offensive shot off the back foot, whether it's a cut or a pull, but you've got to have one. So I worked on that part of my game big time. I come back better and whatnot. But the 84 tour, and it was an ugly tour, Addy, because they're talking about the Rebel tour. The guys, half the team were talking about money. I was just a kid going over there playing for Australia. The aggression with the senior players to the young guys. Oh, I'm going to say it. They treated us like shit, the players. It was the worst tour I've ever been on.
In fact, that's my next question. Like, you're speaking about the mental stress, the mental strength and all that, and the Rebel Tour. So that period when you made it debut, 84, was like just like Tom, like you said, Thompson was at the end of his career. Lily had gone, the Chappells had gone, all of your big players had gone, and then you had a new captain after Kim Hughes had a tearful resignation. You had a new captain, Alan Border itself. So how hard was that team? So people of this generation remember the 2018 post Sandpaper Gate Australian team to be devoid of any leadership, and then they struggled very evidently in all formats. So, like, how was the situation back in 84? Was it comparable to 2018, or was it no way comparable because was it much tougher? How hard was it?
Different type of culture. I'll give you an example. My first test match, I was very, very sick the night before. I wasn't playing. I wasn't even in the 12 or close to it. And there was an opening batsman back then called Steve Smith, no relation. Very, very good player, Steve Smith, opening batsman. And he must have saw the scoreboard and the players playing in the pitch. And he didn't want to play on that one. And I had a bad virus. And I was, as what we say in Australia, I was crook as a dog. I honestly was so bad. And the night before, Jeff Lawson kicked me out of my roommate, kicked me out of my room, and they wouldn't give me a room by myself. So back then, players used to have two players per room. And I literally, the night before my first test match, I slept in the corridor of the Trinidad Hilton. So, and I had a pillow, and I slept there, and he gave me a blanket, and that was it. Now, that happened for 5 days. Can you imagine that happening to someone today?
Absolutely
that stuff
not.
going on? No. And the players thought it was funny. It's not funny. I'm playing for my country. It's my first test match, and I've been badly looked after. So And players were just worried about the money, and it was $200,000 tax free that the players were talking about
The annual salary.
for the Rebel Tour, yeah. And that back then could buy me a house in the best suburb of Melbourne, $200,000 tax free. And on this tour, I think we were only earning $4,500. So, everyone thought we made money in the 80s and 90s. No, we did not. We didn't make much money at all. Like winning the World Cup in '87, I think we only won each $900. $900 we got each. Now, if whoever wins the World Cup in an ODI, they're getting close to $250,000 US. Yeah. Plus, everything else. So you heard, it is. And you heard about the Indians. You guys got, I think, was it Ravi and Sunny got units or blocks of land were given to people in Pakistan when they won. Sri Lanka was the same. We got $900. That was it. So things were different back then.
How important was the leadership back then? Right? We all know that you're quite close with AB, Alan Bottom. So, even for himself, it would have been very, very testing conditions because there's no team. Plus, of all people, England are all over Australia. They just beat them in the Ashes, and then you would go on to lose one more Ashes before reclaiming it in English soil in '89. But how important was border relationship, and how much do you rate border amongst, say, not just Australian captains, but just captains all over the world?
Well, he got the job after Kim Hughes resigned. He didn't want the job, basically. He hated it. He didn't want it, but there was no one else left. There's no cabs on the rank. No one was good enough to be captain. So AB reluctantly took it on. Now, Bob Simpson just started to come on board, and they didn't have a great relationship early, I don't think. And AB was still fighting with selectors wanting to pick New South Wales guys in front of other guys and all. There was just a lot of stuff going on. And the great thing, the big turning point was the Indian tour, the Thai Test tour in '86, where we got away from everyone. We had a wonderful tour. We relished going there. We were told by older players, I'm not going to mention who, but many of the greats of the past saying, the worst tour ever, India. You do not want to go. You don't want to go to India. Mm-hmm. And good luck. I'm not, because they never toured there, some of them. And you can work out who. These guys, so all of a sudden when you go to India, you've got this negative mindset. But we didn't do that. We went over there to really enjoy the culture, get on with the Indian fans, the Indian players. And that's basically how it turned out. We had all the wonderful Australian-Indian relationships that we have now all came about from that Thai Test tour. When everyone would go to players' homes, enjoying the food and their hospitality. There was a bit of nastiness in the Thai Test, but at the end of it, everyone got on and shook hands, and we drank together. We had a good time, and it turned out to be a really good tour for us young kids. So, and then we built from that. But AB had to take over it, and which he probably did. Thank God we had that Thai Test tour before the following year, because we had the World Cup coming over. And what we knew about India, what it's like to bat with your feet full, feeling like it's in a bucket full of water in Madras after being there for an hour, and just dealing with the heat, the hard grounds, the noise, how the ball feels on the bat. It hits lower on the bat than it does in Australia. All these weird things us kids don't know about, but we learnt that, and that helped us big time to help us win the World Cup in '87.
Did you ever foresee yourself playing such an inning? Because the 210 that you scored in Chennai is probably one of the most spoken about Test innings, partly for the wrong reasons, because you were falling sick repeatedly. But did you see yourself playing an innings like that, or how satisfied were you after you finished that innings? How?
It was big. Before the tour, this is my first test tour after I got sacked from the West Indies 2 years before. So this is the time when I had to get myself together. I went and saw the great Lindsay Hassett. And Don Bradman, I sent Sir Donald a letter to say, ask him how to play spin. And he says, you need to speak to Lindsay Hassett. I said, he gave me a call. And I said, okay, I will. And I happened, following week, off by chance, it was a function of Victorian cricket. Lindsay Hassett's from Victoria. And I saw him there. And he was sitting down. He's only a small guy, cheeky man. He said to me, I asked him, how do you play spin in a nutshell? He said, it's really easy. He said, when they toss up, you use your feet and hit it on the half volley or on the full. If you don't, you play it off the back foot. Now go get me a scotch. I said, it can't be that easy. He said, it is that easy. Once you get into a forward defensive shot to a spinner, you've misread length. See, the key is reading length. So I went and saw Ian Chappell straight after that. And he said the same thing, got to use your feet, know how to get a one when under pressure. So I went and saw him, and then I trained with the Carlton Football Club, and I got myself unbelievably fit. My body fat content got down to 8%, 9%, which is stupid before you go into a tour to India for 3 months where it's hot, and you need to carry a little bit of condition so you can get through the tour. Well, the first test match was in Madras, wasn't it?
Yep.
And I didn't drink the water. I had my plan. I'm going to use my feet. And I did that, and I got through the first day, but the second day I started to collapse because I spoke to Pat Rafter, the great tennis player from Australia, and he was a profuse sweater. And I was a profuse sweater as well. And he played if you remember Pat Rafter winning his majors in tennis, he played a serve and volley game, which is a bit different from what they play now. And that takes a lot out of you to play that style of game. It's a very physical style of game. And if you're using your feet a lot to the spinners, that's a very physical game. And I used my feet and too much, and I started to break down. I didn't drink the fluids the night before. I was too nervous about getting 100. And then the one thing I do remember, when I did get to 100, my first ever test 100, my subconscious said to me, there's a big one here. Let's just get through this, get through the boring stages of 100 to 120, because they are boring. And then once you get to 120, you start to think 150, 170, 180. You see?
Small milestones.
And that's it. So small milestones, I got to 120, and then my body said, no, shut down. So cramping up badly. We walked. We should have run 2. There's 3s. We only walked 1. And the rest is history. I just badly lost a lot of weight, and it turned out to be still, I think it's 210 is still the highest test score by an Australian in India in test cricket. So
yes,
it'll be broken one day. It'll be broken one day.
It'll be good. But but none of it will be, it's not going to be as special as yours. I mean, I'm sure
I'll make sure it isn't.
Like how much did those lessons from that 86 help you for the World Cup the following year? Like
massive. It number one, it was my Mount Everest moment. It was my moment when my brain was saying, I think I'm good enough at Test cricket now. I got my first 100 under your belt. Even though my 48 on my first ever game against the West Indies, I still rate as a better knock. My 48 is the best ever knock I've ever played on a wet pitch against those bowlers. Yeah, better than 210. Better than the 216 against the West Indies later on, or 200s in one test match against Pakistan. Better than all that, because it was difficult. It's my first test match. They just try to kill you every ball. It was hard work. But I still rate, I played really well in that 48. But you're right. The lessons I learnt of crease management is a big thing, Addy. Knowing how to look after yourself when you're at the non-striker's end, wiping yourself down, going through a routine, keeping yourself nice and clean and dry as much as you can. Be careful of not running too hard, because if you're batting long periods of time, it's going to hurt you at the end. All these little things I started to realise of how to actually maintain work out my run rates, etc. a little bit better. I learned a lot from that 86 tour.
Absolutely. Moving forward, how sweet was it 89? Personally, 500 plus runs and then winning it on English soil. How?
Yeah.
There's a famous quote, right? The most underrated team to set foot on English soil and win the Ashes.
No, that's not the correct quote. It's the worst Australian team ever to leave Australia. That was the quote.
That's what the media said.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So how can I put this in a snapshot? We played against the West Indies in the summer previously, 88, 89.
88, yeah.
The moment it changed Australian cricket was the Boxing Day Test match. Now, why?
88 Boxing Day.
In 1988 against the West Indies. I'll tell you why. They had Marshall, Kirtley, Patrick Patterson, and Courtney Walsh. Ferocious. And it changed Australian cricket from then on, this game. And I often mention it when I'm talking to other players about it. With 1 over to go on the 4th day, Patrick Patterson, number 11 batsman, was in, and Steve Waugh sledged him from gully. Had a really good zing at him. And he turned around and started having to go back. And then Alan Border was talking to Ian Healy. This is the last over of day 4. And we got to bat out last day. We've got no chance of chasing 370 runs. And the pitch is starting to get dangerous and awful. So Patrick Patterson had to go at Alan Border. And Alan Border said, how about you just worrying about batting? And then Patrick Patterson, I'm cleaning this up. Patrick Patterson said, you got problems tomorrow, man. I'm going to give you massive problems. And neighbours give it up. Yeah, good luck.
He took a 5 first.
So, and then he gets out and into the day's play. Steve Force sledged him again. And we walked off the ground. And we're walking off the ground. Alan Border's gone to see the curator to see what roller we use for the next day. And as we got into the ground, inside the room, it was silence because Steve Waugh and Patrick Patterson have been like this all the way off the ground. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. So while we're undoing our boots, in walks our dressing room is Patrick Patterson still with his gear on and his helmet. The 6'6" Jamaican. And he's taken his helmet off and he threw it at Steve Waugh, who was sitting right next to a phone, where was the dressing room phones. And Steve's ducked and it smashed the dressing room phone. It's gone everywhere. And it says, you'll have problems tomorrow, man. Make sure you have a proper helmet. And I've cleaned that up. Well, the next day, he was a man to his word. That's the fastest I've faced anyone, Patrick Patterson. He was amazing. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. And I'll go through what he did to us. Here's the key. It's okay to beat us, but they were playing with us. So what will happen now, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 batsmen were backing away, or particularly our bowlers, and the bowlers would chase them and bounce them. And they wouldn't bowl the ball at the stumps. And they were getting hit. I got hit in the ribs. I had a chest pad on by Malcolm Marshall. He broke 3 of my ribs. And Booney got hit in his wrist. He got a green stick in his wrist. Alan Border broke his top 4 fingers of his left hand by getting those. And the last one was Ian Healy got hit in the genitals 3 times. 3 times. Now, everyone thinks it's funny. It is when someone else gets it, but not you when you get a hit. Now, we got beaten. Now, Addy, here's the thing. It's the worst, most insipid performance ever by an Australian team. Ever. We were scared. They were ruthless. They tried to kill us. And I sat in our dressing room and we're sitting there. And the bottom line is I was thinking, what's the difference between winning and losing? And right to my right-hand side, I could hear all the West Indians going off. We got all the reggae music and all that going on. And guys got ice on themselves in our dressing room. Absolutely quiet. That's the difference between winning and losing was this divider between the 2 rooms. It's 6 inches thick. That's the difference. I couldn't help thinking, how do I get through that divider to be in a winning environment? I don't know why I was thinking like that, but I was. And we're in a lot of trouble. Bernie's got he's got ice all over. I've got ice on my ribs. Alan Border's got his hand in a bucket full of ice. And there's Ian Healy getting 14 stitches in his genitals. We're in a mess. And what happened straight away? Bob Simpson walked in. He said, everyone sit down in the middle. Now, here's the key, Eddie, about between winning and losing. When you win, everybody goes to the middle of the room. Everyone sits and enjoying each other's company. When you lose, everyone hits the walls. Happens with the Indian team, I'll tell you. Happens with the Australian team. Happens with every sporting team. When you lose, everybody goes like that. When you win, everyone's like this. And he asked everyone to get in the middle of the room. And he said to me, he said, Dino, what is the most important thing you've ever earned in your life? I said, my baggy green cap. He said, go get it. So I went and got it. He said, can I have it, please? And I did, and I just threw it to his feet. He said, thanks. Steve Wall, what's your greatest thing you ever earned? He said, my baggy green cap. He said, can I have it, please? So he went to get it, and he puts it at his feet. He goes through the whole team. And the bottom line is, he said, once he got 11 baggy green caps stacked at his feet, he said, all of you are lazy bastards because not one of you walked up and gave it to me. You put it at my feet. And then he says, we need to change our culture and we need to change your attitudes on how to win. So we went to the Hilton across the road. And we went in the room, we had a few drinks. Had a few too many drinks. And the players started to bite at each other. We told the bowlers, you weak so-and-sos because you're backing away to the fast bowlers, but you like bowling bouncers, but you don't like them back. So you've got to get better than that. We weren't treating the fans right. We weren't treating each other right. And then Bob Simpson came in. He said, right, what are we going to do? He said, well, Dino, what are you going to do? I don't know why he picked on me, but he did. I said, I want to beat these guys. He said, if you want to beat the West Indies, you have to be the #1 batsman in the world. Are you prepared to do that? And I said, yeah. He said, well, I'll help you. And then he went through all these things that we needed to train harder. We needed to ask our bowlers to bowl up 18 yards in the nets because our bowlers didn't bowl as fast as them. And we trained harder. And the bottom line is, we need to know more about ourselves than they know about us. I didn't know Bruce Reid had 2 indoor cricket centres and he had his wife was Sandy and had 2 kids. So we actually started to mix together and do these speeches about my teammate Bruce Reid for 15-minute speech. This is my teammate, opening the bowling for Australia. So we did this. And then that was cool. Everything was done. Yes, we're going to get at them in the next test match. And then we walked out, and I've had a few too many drinks. And I said to Alan Border, our captain, I said, AB, enough talking rubbish about your players in the press. We love you. We're prepared to go through a brick wall for you. But are you prepared to risk your career for us? Because we don't think you will. He said, I do. I will risk it. I'm ready to go. And then Bob Simpson said, same team, next match. Next match, Alan Border got 11 wickets. We beat them in 4 days. And then we went to Adelaide. I was lucky enough to get 200, and Merv batted with me. He made 70 not out, and he got hit 30 times. I kid you not, 30 times he got hit. And then we went to England
He scored a
as the worst team.
70.
There's 72 not out, yeah. And then we went to England as the worst team in the world, and we've just been through the West Indies. We nearly beat them in Adelaide. We did beat them in Sydney, and we had Mark Taylor and all these new guys just starting to do well, and bang, we just smashed them early. We planned. Lawson was brilliant. Terry Alderman got 42 wickets that series. He got 42 wickets or 41 wickets in 1981 in the Test series. Can you imagine any bowler getting 40-plus wickets twice in an Ashes series? They would build a stadium after your name, but not back then. Terry Alderman, you know. But we were brilliant, and everyone had an amazing tour. Not one person missed out. If you weren't playing in the Test match, Tom Moody would be making hundreds against Worcester or hundreds against Glamorgan or someone who was getting 5 for here. It was a real happy tour. And then Alan Border started to realise that he didn't have to make the runs. He can rely on a Taylor, a Boone, a Swore, a Jones, these guys to actually make the runs. He actually started to enjoy captaincy. And then, of course, then along came McGrath and Warne, and the rest was history.
As you said, like, it's not to endure, like, or just pick up a team which is, I mean, pardon, like, correct me if I'm wrong, a team in tatters, like, absolutely dispirited, not just for 1 year, 2 years. So, like, so would you, like, going by words, going by your words, like, would you call him the best captain that you have played for, or probably the best captain in Test cricket?
He's the godfather of Australian cricket. To make anything great, let's call it the Taj Mahal. They had to put in these magnificent foundations to make it withstand bad weather, earthquakes, everything, right? And now, of course, Mark Taylor inherited all these wonderful qualities, and Steve Waugh made it better than Ricky Ponting did, and they've all got a bit of AB, and then Clarkey after that. They've all got a bit of AB in them. But I tell you what, if they didn't have that basis, that foundation, we wouldn't be in the situation we are today. He is the godfather of Australian cricket, Alan Border. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like done about going on about your ODI game. So when you probably see, this is something a lot of people wouldn't know. So when we say Dean Jones, people think that Dean was a number 3 batsman, always a top order. And where did you bat in your first ever ODI inning?
I think number 7, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you scored a 33 ball 40, which was an innings with a strike rate of over 100. It was something that is unheard of in back then. So even that sort of defined your ODI career, like defined your approach towards ODI career. Like back in your days, 80s and the early 90s, having a strike rate of 75 or something was big, and not many people had that. Like, and not just your own peers, but even the people who came after that always think that your game was possibly, to quote Ricky Ponting. So Ricky Ponting once said that your game was actually 10 years ahead of your own time. So, like, where did you get this ODI approach from? Like, it's not like now anybody can pick up a T20 game, and then because there are so many people to tutor you. Whereas when you started playing ODIs, the format was 10 years old. So, like, from where did you get that approach? Like, what is the thought process behind your approach to the ODI game?
Well, I had a coach when I was a kid called Keith Stackpole, who used to go after them, opening batsman for Australia, and used to really go after them. And I watched the games of World Series cricket, and one day cricket started to develop a little bit through that. Obviously, it got bigger and bigger as it got on. But then I watched Viv started to move around the crease a bit. I noticed Jarvid, how he worked the twos, and how he did the cheeky fine lapping and sweeping, etc. And then reverse. We were reverse sweeping back then in the 80s. Don't worry about that. But that's basically, that was it. And Bob Simpson said, whatever intuition is in you, comes in, just do it. Trust it. Because that's your creativity. If you feel that you can do that, do it. So I was given a free license from Simo to do it as well. And then I remember I got out with a couple of stupid shots trying to hit a ball over the top, whatnot. And remember, Bradman said, you can still get to 125 shots with 25 fours. You can hit the ball on the ground as well. You don't have to hit sixes. There's a big risk between 4 and a 6. So then I started to charge and hit the ball on the ground a lot more. I didn't really hit the ball much in the air. And then I worked out the running between the wickets, and I tried to hit a lot of fours. Hurt them early in the power play, in the first power play, and then I would back off from the 16th to the 40th over. Then hitting twos, working on trajectories, because the grounds were massive back then. They don't have ropes like they do now. And then after the last 40, with 10 overs to go, it was just then I'm back to boundary mode, trying to hit boundaries then. But a lot of people forget this, and Addy, is that one-day cricket when I played, you're allowed to bowl four or five bounces and over when I first started. There was leg side wides, no leg side wides. You can bowl down leg side. The '87 World Cup, you could have 7 guys on the leg side, which they did often do. So and they're bowling down your backside all day. And I remember playing 3 or 4 reverse sweeps. And we talk about the Gadding one that ended up maybe costing him the game, but he made a lot of runs throughout that series, that World Cup, playing the reverse sweep a lot. So, I don't think it was much of a big deal. But basically that's how I worked it out. And the massive grounds, like with the bats that we used compared to the ones they use today, is different. Sure, our training was different. I remember 1990, we're in Adelaide. It was the first training session before the first game that we played. And Bob Simpson would always get 3 dozen white balls, practice balls. And I remember Tim May bowling to me in the net. I went down in the Adelaide Oval and I went whack in the practice wickets, hit it out in the car park. And then a couple of balls later, bang. And Bob Simpson would yell at me, Dino, we've only got 24 balls or 36 balls for the next 3 weeks. Now get out of the net and go and get them. Go and get them. So here I am, number 1 player in the world, trudging out into the car park looking for the 2 balls that I hit out there. Could you imagine Kohli or anyone doing that today? Like, that was the stupid attitude that we had back then. But I backed myself to hit the ball. And the great thing about it is I didn't have a plan before each match. I just went out there and played it off the back of my backside. I think, am I going to charge Imran or Waqar or Wasm or Kapil Dev or whoever? Am I going to charge him? No, Ambrose, yeah, which I did and failed a couple of times and won a couple of times. But the fact is, it wasn't pre-planned. I just backed my intuition. He's going to bowl short here, and I'll sit on my back foot, and sure enough, he bowled. Now, where do I learn that? I don't know. I study bowlers, the release points. I look for behavioural patterns with bowlers, and I look for the little things with them maybe over the time. But I knew that once I got in, I knew if I got 75, 80 plus or more, we're going to win the game. So I make sure I batted deep. That was it. No big formula.
But do you have, over 6,000 ODI runs and probably an average of 45, which doesn't matter how many ever filters you put, your name will ultimately feature in the top 10 averages. Doesn't matter how many runs you put. Do you have some regrets? Do you at some point feel that your ODI career ended slightly prematurely? You could have probably played one more World Cup.
Yeah.
And again, not many people know. You scored 100 against the Australians. Sorry to interrupt you. You scored 100 against the Australians, playing for Australia A, if I'm not wrong.
It was the World 11.
Yeah,
it was the World 11 celebrating Victorian cricket, 150 years of cricket. So the world selectors who were paid, their charter was to pick their best team to play against the Australians who were coming back after being runners-up against the Sri Lankans in 95, was it? 95, 96, whatever.
96, yeah.
96. So, and I haven't been in the Australian team for 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 2 years. I should have gone on that tour. I should have gone to the World Cup. I should have gone there, and they didn't pick me. I got all the injections. I tell you how tough Bob Simpson was. That was the time that you only take 14 players away, not 15. So, and it's coming down to this day, whoever's going to be the 15 player is going to be boosted out. So we had to go, everyone had to go to the hospital and get a globulin shots, tetanus, all these type of shots, which, as you can imagine, your arm gets hurt and you get smashed, all this type of stuff. So I got there and took all the injections and walked out, and Bob Simpson said, "Come here." I said, "What's up?" He said, "You're not going." I said, "Why didn't you tell me before going in there? I wouldn't have got the bloody injection." And he says, "Oh, well, you're safe over the next month or so. You know, you're not going to get sick. I said, terrific. And we went over there and we got runners up. But and then the world selectors picked me in the team, along with guys like Martin Crowe and Heath Streak. Gee, there's a lot of good players who played in that team. And we were 5 for 40, I think, close to it, or 4 for 40 when we batted first, and ended up getting 100 off the. I think I hit a 6 off the last ball to get us to 220, I think, and against the Australians, which had Warne and everyone all playing. So it was a pretty nice knock to get the selectors to say, you made the wrong decision and you should have picked me to go to Sri Lanka for the World Cup.
Could have been different.
No,
could have been 6 World Cups for all you know.
It could have, but the bottom line is, yeah, the question was, did you leave prematurely? I loved Test cricket more than one-day cricket. I did. And once my career was finished in 1992, I was 30 years of age. 30. Finished. And I just didn't want to play one-day cricket because you weren't the complete player if you didn't play both forms of the game. That's what I thought, whether it's my ego or what. And they played me in all the one-days, but then I just started to take too many risks. I didn't care about the way I played, and I got to about 94, and I got a couple of bad decisions in South Africa, and I said, I'm finished, I'm retiring, I've had enough. Because they weren't picking me in Test cricket, and they were batting me low in the one-days there, and even though I had the respect around the world, I didn't have the respect with the Australian selectors.
So, at what point, career could have been a little longer. But like the natural transition from a player, like we all know that the commentator Dean Jones is very data savvy and number friendly and all that. Are you like that as a player as well? So, and the biggest question, like, where did you get this professor name from? Who?
I don't know if you can hear me still. You're just in and out a little bit here, but Professor, what's his name from Kolkata? He was with. There you are. I got you now.
Just one minute.
All right, you will. I got you. There you go. You got me? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we tried to do something a bit different, an avatar. Professor Dino coming with all these numbers. I know they started to do a lot of baseball. Averages really motivated me as a cricketer. That's what motivated me. I wanted to be up, over 50 in Test cricket and over 50 in one day, as I had that at one stage until the last couple of years of my career. But, about Bradman's average of 99.94 and all this type of stuff. And he only hit 6 Test sixes and all this stuff. I just love stats. And I just basically got really involved. And we tried to put Professor Dino, you go upstairs and you've got Sonny Gavaskar and you've got Jeff Boycott talking hardcore cricket. And we need to lighten it up, and I would I would think, right, Australia will beat India today at Chennai, but the only problem is Andrew Simon's haircut and Ian Harvey's haircut is just awful. So that brings it back a little bit. It's going to turn 2 feet there, and I'm putting in all these permutations, combinations in and coming up with some sort of thing. And I got a lot right, actually, through all that type of stuff. And it was a bit of fun there for a while. But it's hard work when you do stand up for NDTV, as I was working back then. And when you're writing all your stuff and trying to make it up and come up with different themes and all that type of stuff. But bizarre. But I've probably a little bit, again, at the start of my career, that how important is it now for T20 and one-day cricket and Test cricket about understanding where players' weaknesses are, knowing their strike zones, where they hit the ball, all this type of stuff. They struggle to left arm spinners more to a right arm off spinner. Whatever it is, we will find your weakness. And I use it a hell of a lot now for my analytics to pick my teams to coach. And it's
absolutely,
and also how to plan against the opposition. I'll give you an example. Shane Watson, he doesn't, through Kadampa, which it helped me, he doesn't like facing leg spin early. The first 10 balls of his thing, he got out a lot to leg spinners than he did to any other thing. So I tried to bowl leg spinners to him early, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you've got to have a game plan coming into each particular match. And analytics are very, very important. And psychologically, it's great too, because they know I'm doing the homework on them. And if the athlete starts to, so if the athlete starts to think, oh, hang on, he's got something on me, then he's in a negative mindset. And that's where you want your opposition, a negative mindset. There is some rubbish stuff out there, as you know. But if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And the analytics are there. It's all in the analytics.
Yeah. If you know what to look for, you'll find it. You'll find your answer.
Yeah.
And what about what about the transition to coach? Like, the normal coaching process, like people take a lot of state jobs, assistant coaches and all that. But did the PSL job with Islamabad, was it your first coaching stint or?
Oh, no. I coached Australia as the batting coach, and I've helped out New Zealand, and I helped for a week or so for. I was the batting coach for South Australia for a while, but there are just consultancy jobs, basically.
So this PSL thing came after a long gap. Did it come after a long gap?
Yeah.
So what?
Pretty much, but a couple of years before that, I was coaching Australia with Michael Clark for a couple of months there, but as the batting coach. But I wanted to coach, and I wanted to bring a point of difference to it, not because I want to be different, because I've got my theories of T20 cricket. Now I've got to use the analytics to pick the players to play my game plan.
Yep, absolutely.
And if it doesn't work, I'll get sacked like everyone else. And fortunately enough, we had a game plan, formulate what's my game plan, and then pick the right players to suit that game plan. And fortunately enough, we won it. So, and I have to say, I love commentary. It's good fun. It really is. I love watching and calling the game, entertained as much as I can. I could probably commentate in a batsman's point of view, how he's trying to set a bowler up, and this is the way the game's going to go, and I try to preempt what's about to happen. But coaching is, geez, you can change kids' lives. Just being with them for a month, and saying that we have emerging players in Pakistan. 2 of them must be in your team, and one's got to play.
Players,
Yeah, in the first 4 years at Islamabad, 6 out of those 8 emerging players played for Pakistan within that year, and
including
and they're playing overseas, and they're sending you messages. And I said, I can't believe I'm here, coach. You've helped me try to get there. He said, well, maybe the kids they listen to me, had a good coaching staff around me, understand what their weaknesses are, because I sit them down like a school thing. I said, right, there's the analytics on you. How can you change? How can you get better? You guys help me with that. And I said, geez, you go to that nth degree of knowing about everyone. I said, yeah, I do. It's my job. And this is how they're going to bowl to you. These links here, this link there. This is your beehive. This is where you've got to be. And you've got to come up with a better shot than what you're playing at the moment. And, some of them listen, some don't, but they've been pretty successful with it, with that method the last 5 years. I love coaching. I really do. It's a lot of fun.
You've been involved in every PSL, including 2 titles, and obviously the draft part of it. We worked together for the draft this year. So, when you say that you like your analytics, I actually know how much you like your analytics, because the
you get messages at 2 o'clock in the morning.
The number of mails we had to send each day at 2 in the morning, and working across time zones to get that one player. It's absolutely.
And that's the difference. Addy, as you and I know, that it's the little things are the things that change the match. It's the only way I can get myself involved in the match is the analytics. So when I go out with a strategic timeout and I show them the board and I put the board up and I say, now, look, why are we bowling out here? We didn't talk about that. We need to be bowling in these zones. And then we show an iPad, the vision of what these guys do. Go back to the analytics. When he comes in, we need to bowl Yorker, 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 or slow ball, slow ball, slow ball. And this is what the stuff comes up with. So then they start to be it. But it's a lot of fun. And look, it doesn't come off a lot of times, but we've been quite successful with it. It's And then you could probably go a little bit over the top. Some guys like to have analytics, other guys don't. And it's how you use it that matters. But that's the future of the game now, for sure.
Yeah, it's how you, like you said, it's how you use it as well. So it's not just, if you're using it as a great platform, yeah, why not? Like the 2 PSL titles speak for itself. You don't have to say much.
Well, hopefully it might be 3 at the end of the year. You know, we haven't missed a playoff series yet. I was so close to actually get the Kings 11 job. Anil got that before me. I think I was the second one. I missed out on that one, and they wanted to have an Indian boy to coach. But I would have loved to coach in the IPL. Hopefully, I might get an opportunity.
Yeah, you were in contention for the Pakistan job as well.
Yeah, but it was always going to be misbar, and there's jobs for the boys, and Anyway, but I'm not doubting misbars, but the way it was done, that wasn't done really well. But I was happy with the interviews I had with the Kings 11. But Anil, of course, Anil Kumble, like one of the greats, got the job before me. But I would like the opportunity. All I can do is keep winning and keep getting teams in playoffs and see what happens from there. And I've been pretty successful in doing that. I even coached the T10, which we're trying to work out different analytics for that.
Yeah,
different beehives and all that. It was a bizarre game. And I love the game, actually. It's quite a good game. We got into we finished runners-up in 1 year. So in my only year as coach there. So it's good fun coaching, but you can't. The players now are actually educated with this now as well. You know, 5 years ago they weren't. You know, when I walked into PSL, into Islamabad, and then we had this analytics up, the players were looking at each other. What's he speaking about? And as a coach, I have to sell it to them. And if I don't sell it properly to them, they're not going to agree to it. So it's a good storyline, and this is how we do this, and this is how we do that. And the reason why we've picked you is because this is your role. And then they start to see how it comes together. So, oh, that's the theory, what he's doing. So I'll give you my 4 theories. And you've heard this a couple of times, as you know. My 4 theories of winning T20s. Number 1, the first player you pick must be your death bowler. Because the analytics tell us that death bowlers win you more games than anyone else. Fact.
Absolutely.
Number 2. That's why we went for, back then we had Rumen Rays and these guys who did very well for us. Number 2, you need to have an opening batsman who can smack it to all parts and bat deep. He needs to bring fear and can play spin. And I had Shazil Khan and these guys at the start there. And then I had Dwayne Smith, who was very good, and Shane Watson at the top. So we did that. Number 3. And Ronke. Jeez, how could I forget Ronks? Number 3. You need to have a power hitter because they also win you a lot of games. Look at Andre Russell. He was the 3rd guy I picked for Islamabad. Andre, why wouldn't anyone else pick him back then? But I did. I knew what he could do. So and he could bowl a bit for us as well. So that was cool. And your number 4, you need to have a spinner who can spin it both ways. Now, and it's got to be both ways because you've got left-handers and right-handers in. So. And then we picked Shadab Khan, who was just a kid back then. I had Sam Budry. He was the best player in the world, leg spinner, at that time. And he had a pulled hamstring, came back from the BBL, and they said, it's okay, Sam, I'll fix it. I've got to try the kid. We've got to play an emerging player, so I'll try the kid. Well, the kid got 2 for 10 and 3 for 15 and 3 for 25, and Sam Budry looked at me and said, I'm not going to play for the rest of the tournament. I said, no, you're not. And then all of a sudden, Shadab Khan was playing, and then he played in the championship trophy 6 months later.
He did.
You know, got rid of Kohli. And
won it.
He is the best. He's the best fieldsman I've ever seen from Pakistan. He's the best fieldsman I've ever seen from Pakistan. So, and now he's batting really well. So he's outstanding. So he's come along leaps and bounds.
Probably Imran Nazir. Yeah, maybe. Lovely.
So so that's my 4 theories. That's my 4 theories.
Got it. I said got it. Yeah.
No, okay.
I think we're slightly running out of time, Dino. So absolutely lovely catching up with you. Thanks for giving us the time slot. I know it's quite late for you. It must be close to 10 for you. So Thanks
8
for
o'clock.
joining us. Thanks for joining us.
You're a star. God love you,
Stay
bud.
safe.
Take care. All the
Stay
best.
safe.
Will do.
Hopefully, we see you back in Urmi soon.
Yep, will do. We will. September, maybe.
Yeah. See ya.
See you, bud. Bye.